What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Links and Locks podcast, the DFS edition. I'm Jason Sobel from GolfBet. He is Len Hochberg from RotoWire. We're going to take you through our favorite DFS plays for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial from top to bottom. But first, Len, let's review this major championship that we just got past. I'm not going to lie, for much of the 3.5 days, and I was out there in Tulsa at Southern Hills, Len, and it was not the most exciting major championship that we've ever seen. The end was really good, and the end is what matters, and the end is what we will remember. Justin Thomas beating Will Zalatoris in a playoff, Mito Pereira blowing it on 18, making a double bogey. Just sort of your reaction to everything.
Yeah, I did. You just reminded me that I tweeted something out about halfway through the Sunday round where I go, I have to be honest, this is just not a very exciting thing. The top four guys on the leaderboard were still the top four guys on the leaderboard. They might have moved a little bit, but there really had not been a lot of action in terms of where the scores were going and where the golfers were going. And then like 5 minutes later, and here comes Justin Thomas on the outside. And then it got very exciting. But you're right. Until then, and quite frankly, we'll watch these guys, Zalatoris, Pereira. They're not the most exciting guys for the everyday golf crowd. There weren't stars there, none of the winners, but it did have a good finish, and Justin Thomas won. And if you want not Mito Pereira, you'll probably have fond memories of a fun PGA.
Are you saying Justin Thomas was like Rich Strike coming down the stretch? I don't think he was as much of a long shot, though. I don't know that we could have gotten 80-1 on Justin Thomas this past week. But yeah, he was fantastic. I can't remember exactly what we said about him here on the pod last week. I didn't dislike him by any means, but there were a couple of other superstars that I like just a little bit better. Nothing surprised me when it comes to JT, though. He is just that talented, that good, and I would expect to see him up there at a few more majors very soon, maybe even starting next month at Brookline as we move towards the U.S. Open. But let's get into this week, Charles Schwab Challenge. And look, if we're going to have a week, at least for me personally, Len, and I know it's a long week for you in a major championship as well, but for me, coming off a major, and I'm writing, my preview had a Tulsa dateline on it. I was still back at the PGA, still back at Southern Hills while I was working on my preview content for this coming week. And so having a course that's been in rotation longer than any of these guys have been alive, longer than their parents have been alive, at least that helps. We've got plenty of data. We know specific players that play well here year in, year out. We know what type of golf course this is. Just over 7,200 yards, par 70, Colonial, short, tight. What else are you looking at as far as game theory this week, Len?
Yeah, we continue with the Perry Maxwell swing at the PGA Tour. Also, he was busy in 1936. This is also 1936, just like Southern Hills. And I read your quote from you quoting Jordan Spieth that there are similarities, but Southern Hills is like Colonial on steroids. So, yeah, we take the steroids away this week. We have a tight track. The Colonial likes to choke off the longer hitters, dog legs, trees. You have to get the ball in the fairway, only 7,200 yards, as you said. So, yeah, it's a different kind of animal this week. One thing that I'm looking at is experience. I think that Colonial is one of the courses where if you haven't played it before, you're at a bit of a disadvantage. And there are about 3/4 of the field has played this course before. Most of the big names have played it. And also the older guys. If my math is correct, 18 of the last 20 winners have been at least 30 years old. It speaks to, it sort of speaks to a bygone era of not bombing and gouging, of really knowing how to play a golf course strategically. The two exceptions, Berger and Spieth, in the last 5 or 6 years. But really, we're just looking at accuracy, greens and regulations. I might de-emphasize strokes gained around the green this week if you can get it on the green in regulation. And that lets some other guys into play who might have had trouble last week.
I like that. And as far as that comparison between Southern Hills and Colonial, I'm looking at players who hit the ball well, at least on the weekend last week. I don't need guys that were in serious contention. I don't need to go after Justin Thomas and Will Zalatoris and Mito Pereira, each of whom, as of right now, we're speaking Monday evening, each of them are still in the field, but I don't need to go after the guys that were in serious contention. But there are a lot of players I'm going after who had very good ball striking metrics on the weekend, and I'm hoping for that to carry over to this week as well. So looking at the top of the board, Scotty Scheffler still sitting there at 11-2. He is the number one player in the world still, coming off a miscut last week. We're just wondering, all of a sudden we went from Scotty Scheffler, he can't lose, to Scotty Scheffler. Okay, just all right. We took a little step back. All right. It doesn't mean that much, but just throwing it out there. Justin Thomas, he had the major championship win this past week. Look, most of the times I'd say just a guy won a major a few days earlier. Fade. JT is one of those guys who you could almost see just stepping on the gas pedal and going, hey, that felt pretty good. Let me go win this again. And I could absolutely see it this week. Colin Morikawa, very interesting on this golf course. I like him a lot. 10-7. Jordan Spieth has been unbelievable on this course. 1 win and 3 runner-up finishes, 7 top 10s in 9 starts. Can't believe Jordan Spieth has 9 starts anywhere in his career yet. He's at 10-4. Will Zalatoris, as I mentioned, off that runner-up playoff loss, really didn't do much wrong in the playoff. He just got beat by Justin Thomas. He's at 10-1, and Victor Hovland rounds out the 5-digit crew at 10,000. What are you looking at?
Yeah, this is hard. They really all do look good in a way, and so maybe the differential for me would be to stay away from the very high price guys. As much as Justin Thomas wants to play well this week, and Will Zalatoris and some of the others, I just think that I think it's human nature. It might be hard. I'm going to start with Colin Morikawa, and Colin Morikawa has not had a great year. I'm kind of wondering if Colin Morikawa might revisit his schedule next year. He hasn't played a ton. He's played the big tournaments. This is only going to be, I think, his 4th or 5th non-major WGC players, and we're almost in June. But this course will reward his best skills, and he's still a very good iron player. He at 10-7 and Victor Hovland at 10,000. Their biggest shortcoming is around the green. I think they can both get away without that skill set this week. I like both of them, and it's hard not to like Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Colin Morikawa is the guy that I'm looking at right here. I've got him for a top 5 this week, and so obviously I like him in DFS as well. Hasn't played his best golf, but the ball striking numbers were really good on the weekend at Southern Hills. Jordan Spieth, hard not to like him. I mentioned all the good things he's done there. He might be 1,000,000% owned this week. So if you're looking to go contrarian, it might be stay off Jordan this week, especially with the narrative of coming off a disappointing major championship appearance. Just a month ago, he missed the cut at the Masters and won at the RBC Heritage the very next week. I think that people are going to be looking very carefully at that, saying, now he didn't have a great PGA, but he goes to a place that he likes right afterwards. Could be a similar result. So I like Jordan. It's just, it might be very chalky. And then I will say, it kind of breaks my cardinal rule, Len, the week after a major championship, but Will Zalatoris is only 25 years old. He didn't seem like he was too unnerved about losing in a playoff. Some guys be bawling their eyes out. And, oh man, this is my big chance. And Will's like, oh man, yeah, that was cool though. All right, I'll see you next week. And nothing seems to phase this kid. He's a really good ball striker. I put on Twitter, I didn't mean for this to be a prediction, but I put on Twitter Sunday night, hey, this kid's going to win multiple major championships. I mean, he's not done. And people say, yeah, but his putting. And my contention is his putting is not going to get worse than it is right now. And all he needs to do is pick up half a stroke around, make one more putt every 2 days. That would have won him 2 major championships already. And so he is not that far off. He is a tremendous ball striker. I don't know if people realize just how good he is with an iron in his hand. He's been better than Colin Morikawa or Justin Thomas so far this season. So again, it breaks my rule of if a guy's in contention in a major, don't take him the week after. But Will Zalatoris breaks a lot of rules in this game right now. So I don't necessarily mind going after him. All right, the 9,000s, not too many guys in the 9,000s this week. It's a It's a shorter group than we usually have. Sam Burns, 9,700, followed by Max Homa, Abraham Answer, Sungjae Im coming off COVID, Tony Finau, and Daniel Berger. Where are you going with those?
You know, one of the things I'm looking at, well, first of all, with Will Zalatoris, I want to say one way to improve your putting is to hit it to 3 feet. You know, then you become, then putting doesn't really matter as much. So
it might be 2 feet for Will. 3 feet might be out of the circle of friendship there.
All right, fair enough. One of the things I'm looking at this week, you know, there are a lot of short par fours. There are 8 of them under 450, and there are about half of those are like 408, 407 and under. So I sort of looked at both categories: par 4 efficiency, 350 to 400, 400 to 450. There are 4 guys in the field in the top 25 of both of those. One of them, Spieth, who we mentioned, and 2 more in the 9,000, Sam Burns and Daniel Berger. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but the 4th guy is Justin Rose. So Burns has not been great this year, although he has come off he has a win and was 20th at the PGA, but he's also missed 5 of 10 cuts. But I do like him this week. Daniel Berger's been very quiet. You know, he won here a few years ago. He was 20th last year, I think. He's had a couple of top 10s, a few top 25s, but we're not ever thinking of him on a Sunday in the mix. I think this might be his week. And even Abraham Answer at 93, his big miss on the golf course is the wedge around the green, 200 something in strokes gained around the green. He can get away with that this week. And he's coming off a very good week last week, of course.
I don't hate any of these guys, Len, but this feels like a very fadey group to me. I will probably, my roster construction, I think, for a lot of my lineups will be go after one of those big guys, the Morikawa or Spieth or even Zalatoris, maybe even a Thomas in a lineup or 2. And then look at guys in the 8,000s and 7,000s and get 5 players from that range to fill in the rest of the spots. I just don't see myself paying up for these 9,000 guys because I don't like them as much as I like some of the guys that are just below them that we're going to talk about in a minute, or I like them just as much, but I can save money with the other players. Abraham Answer, interesting, coming off a 9th place finish at the PGA. He didn't have a top 30 in a PGA Tour stroke play event all year until then. So I'm not sure if it's, hey, let's get all in on Answer. Is he peaking at the right time, or was that just the big one there and now we're hitting the down part of that roller coaster? So I don't know about that. Daniel Berger is a guy that he was 13 over through 2 rounds at the PGA. It was more putting than ball striking. And I get it. He can certainly turn things around at Colonial, but I just don't like the sound of that very much. Max Homa is a guy that, look, on any given week, Max Homa can play some really good golf, and he usually does. He's maybe my favorite play for this week out of that crew, but Answer's right there. Yeah, it's pretty much a fade for me. Tony Finau was runner-up 3 years ago. He's not playing his best golf right now. Sungjae Im coming off COVID. Maybe if we have a little pre-tournament quote sheet from Sungjae, and he said, asymptomatic, no big deal. I've been practicing. I'm fine. Maybe get after Sungjae a little bit, but other than just being contrarian, I don't think I'll play him. Just wait and see coming off that. All right, let's get down to the 8,000s. Gooch, Fleetwood, Webb, Mito, Horschel, Riley, DeChambeau, Kokrak, Kevin Na, and Bubba round that out. Some very, very eclectic names in there. Who are you looking at?
There are a few guys in this range that you just mentioned who have not played this course before, and they are the name Fleetwood, Riley at 8,400, Pereira, who I think we could stay away from for a bunch of reasons this week. I wouldn't be able to get out of bed, but kudos to him for showing up. So that's really a thing for me. I mean, Colonial really does help if you've played this course before. It's kind of surprising that Fleetwood has never played it before, but let's see. I mean, Billy Horschel at 8,500. He's made the cut all 4 times here. He was 21st at the Heritage, which is another short track in the same mold where technical, you've got to work your way around the course. He hasn't missed a cut all year. Kevin Na, $8,100. He's won here. You know, he's an all or nothing guy. Has some good years here, has some bad years here. I don't know who else I'm liking here, to tell you the truth. So I'm gonna like a bunch of guys right below 8,000. So why don't you have at it?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we're gonna have a lot of the same guys right below 8,000. But going up and down the list, Taylor Gooch. If you look at his last 7 results, it's on, off, on, off, on, off. The pattern says this is an off week. It's not going to be good. I love the kid. I think he's a really good ball striker. Wait to see a little bit more from him, a little bit more consistency. Tommy Fleetwood, like you mentioned, hasn't played this golf course. I'm very intrigued by Tommy Fleetwood. This could be a very good golf course. When you said, players that haven't played, there are 3 names on my list. 2 of them you just mentioned here, Fleetwood and Davis Riley. Could be a really good course for both of those guys. So I will have a little investment on each of them. Webb Simpson finally got things going a little bit last week. The result wasn't great, but a 20th place finish. That's his best of the entire year. That's his best of 2022 so far. Again, you're trying to get these guys on an uptick. So you wonder if it's a one and done situation or not. Billy Horschel's a guy that I really liked last week. He really let me down. I might go back to it just because if I don't, I'll be kicking myself for letting him go and just missing him by a week. And other than that, Kevin Na. Really like Kevin Na this week. Like you said, past champion at this one. And Kevin just seems to play well every single week. He's just a guy, he's a gritty grinder, high floor, just shows up. If you look at his last 4 starts, 23rd last week, 42nd, 26th, 14th. It's there. For a guy who's 8,100, like we've got the win equity, plus we've got the high floor. I think it's a really nice play on Kevin Na this week. All right. You mentioned that just below 8,000, there's a lot of guys you like. Let's see how many we both like from this range.
I mean, they're all here. I mean, I've seen a lot of people like Gary Woodland at 79, yep. Brian Harmon. I know you like him at 78. Chris Kirk is also 79.
Yep.
Justin Rose is 77. They're all right in the sweet spot where they can fit into just about any lineup, and they all have a lot to offer this week, either in course history and or the skill set. And if we're going to do all the 7s, I'm going to go all the way down to 7,400 to Kevin Kisner. Seems like every week that I like Kevin Na, I like Kevin Kisner. The same, not the exact same guy, but same name, short courses. He was 4th at the Players, which is sort of a short course, at least by today's standards. I think we might be able to get a good price on Kevin Kisner. He's missed his last 3 cuts. I don't think that's anything to concern ourselves with long term.
I'm with you on all that stuff, Len. I completely agree. In fact, that was the first lineup I put in. And I always like to put in one lineup as soon as I see it. Okay, boom, let's go. And it was Morikawa at the top and then fill in the rest of the spaces with all these guys that are kind of right there. Woodland, Kirk, Harmon, Rose, really like all those guys. 2 names you didn't mention, Christian Bezuidenhout. I think this could be a good course for him. Really good short game. Maverick McNeely plays some of his best golf on short courses. He's done it on Pebble. He's done it at Harbor Town. This could be a good one. Kisner, I agree. Kisner is going to be another guy that's 1,000,000% owned this week. I just don't know that Kisner's a contrarian play, but I think it's a good price for him. Ryan Palmer, this is his home course. He's played this tournament 18 times before. Nobody knows Colonial better than Ryan Palmer. Matthew Neesmith, I like a lot. I haven't seen the updated leaderboard, but Matthew Neesmith was playing a 36-hole U.S. Open sectional qualifier. Last time I checked, he was leading that. And so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It means he's playing well, but also means he's playing a lot. And 36 holes on a Monday isn't necessarily the best way to prepare for a guy that you want to be up there on the leaderboard come Sunday, but I don't mind that. And then 2 more names at the end of this 7,000s, teammates from the Zurich Classic and very similar players, Aaron Rye and David Lipsky. I think both of them have skill sets that fit really well. I'm actually a little surprised that Rye is more expensive than Lipsky. Lipsky might be the better play, and he's in a little bit better form this week. Anybody sub 7,000 that you're looking at? I know you usually pick out some guy who's like below 6,500 that you really like. I'm looking for it, Len. I'm not sure I have it this week.
I should have said this up at the top as I normally do. We only have 120 in this field, so 65 in ties. So a lot of guys are going to make the cut, more than 50, 55%, maybe more, depending. So a lot of these 6,000s are going to make it. And very often we look at the stats of these guys, and they're going to be terrible because they're $6,000 guys. One of the reasons that they are poor statistically is because they're shorter hitters. Some of these guys are shorter hitters, and if you hit the ball and you're 30 yards back or 40 or 50 yards back, you're behind the 8-ball right there. Every hole is going to be harder. That's not going to be the case this week. Few guys, Adam Long, 6,900, definitely misnamed Adam Long, but top 22 of the past 3 years at this course. He's had its moments this year. Kevin Streelman, 6,800, sixth in driving accuracy. He's made 5 of his last 7 cuts. And I know I mentioned this guy on shorter courses a bunch. Tyler Duncan, he was 12th at the Heritage, 10th in driving accuracy, 40th in greens and regulation. I'll throw one more name out because I don't know why he is this low. But Robert Streb is 6,000. I mean, 63, 64. I don't know why he's down there with the sponsor exemption from.
Great course for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's made 6 straight cuts at this course. I mean, if you've got no money left and you have 6,000 or 6,100, I don't know why he is quite that low. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Len. Yeah, now that I'm looking there are more players in the 6,000s than I initially thought that I would like. So Denny McCarthy, I'll throw out there 6,800. I will throw out Grayson Sigg, who just got into the field either Sunday night or early Monday morning. He's at 65. And then talk about mispriced, Kurt Kitayama, who's really come on strong lately. He's got 2 top 3 finishes in his last, 6-7 starts. The guy's really good. He's just a solid player. Yeah, there's not that high floor that we necessarily like, but for 6,400, he's been a bit all or nothing. But I like the fact that there is that upside on Kitayama, and then I'll just throw out the fact that it's called the Charles Schwab Challenge, and Matthias Schwab is in the field. The headlines write themselves, Len. I mean, if you want to take a guy whose name's Schwab at the Schwab, you could probably do a lot worse than that.
Uncle Chuck, can you get me in the tournament? Kitayama, by the way, also very high up on the leaderboard today in Dallas. He looks like he's going to qualify for the U.S. Open.
I may have him at 6,400 for my U.S. Open DFS team as well. We'll get to that in a month. But first, let's make our team for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge, or Matthias Schwab Challenge, as it might be. Why don't you kick it off for us, Len?
There's so many ways to go here, but I'm going to go right in our little sweet spot. Justin Rose, 7,700. He's one of the 4 guys. He plays the shorter par 4s very well. There are 8 of them on this course. And he's coming off a pretty good week last week. I think he can still get it done on certain tracks. And Justin Rose, 7,700.
I like that. I'm deciding whether I want to go back to that same sweet spot or one of those low 6,000 guys that we just talked about, where I do think there's a lot of value. Let's keep it here for now. I'm going to go Brian Harman, who's a guy that's got 3 top 10s, 6 top 25s, and 9 career starts here. It's a great course for Brian Harman, plus the fact that he led the field in strokes gained, approach shots on Sunday at Southern Hills. He made a ton of birdies on the weekend, just made too many bogeys. He's not going to make those mistakes at Colonial. So I just love the fact that he's putting up the red numbers out there.
I'm going to go up high here. Last week I was talking on some show somewhere or something, and somebody mentioned Brooks Koepka, and they said, he's still Brooks Koepka. And I go, yeah, but if he has another bad week, at some point he's not going to be Brooks Koepka anymore. Mm-hmm. And Colin Morikawa is still Colin Morikawa. At least, we'll revisit this on Sunday, but I'm just not, I'm sort of a little inside baseball here. I'm trying to will it to happening. He's on my RotoWire season-long team. He's been a huge disappointment. All seriousness, this course should set up very nice for him. I don't think he's been playing a lot, so he's playing second week in a row, which I like. And he could be our big Orca 10,700.
I absolutely love that. This is kind of like I mentioned earlier. This is essentially the roster construction that I've started my lineups with, which is Morikawa or Spieth at the top, and then fill in with a bunch of high 70s, low 80s guys that I think it's a smart play. I'm looking at another guy in that range. A few different ways to go. Chris Kirk was really good the other day. Chris Kirk almost was too good this past weekend. Finished a share of 5th place and almost got me thinking, first of all, he's going to be too highly owned because people are going to look at that. Secondly, I thought the price might be a little too high. 7,900's not bad. I like Chris Kirk. Look at Gary Woodland too. Even though this is a shorter golf course, we've seen guys like Finau 3 years ago was runner-up. Jason Kokrak was our champion last year. Gary Woodland's a very similar player to those guys in that he hits it a long way, but he doesn't need to hit it a long way. If you give him a 380-yard par 4, he'll knock a 5-iron down the fairway and attack it with more precision instead of power. And so I like Woodland. I like Kirk. I don't know. Who do you like better out of those two, Len?
I saw a lot of people pick Gary Woodland in what I've been reading this morning, and that goes, I'd say, well, okay, not everyone is right. People are wrong more than they're right. So I'll say, when I see someone on, I mean, if everyone's on Scotty Scheffler, that's different, but everyone's on Gary Woodland. So I'm wary of Gary Woodland because everybody likes him.
Let's go Chris Kirk. I just need a little tiebreaker there because I like both those guys, but I might wind up getting the other guy as we continue. All right, we've got 15.9 left, 79.50 per man.
All right. Well, I'm going to go way down low to my guy who, Tyler Duncan, 6,300. He didn't just make the cut at the Heritage. He was 12th. He can compete at these courses that are short. He just needs a lot of them and he doesn't get enough of them. So, he's not going to be highly owned for sure. He's outside the top 400 in the world, but he's only $6,300.
Gosh, Max Homa is really good. Max Homa won the Wells Fargo, came back to the PGA. He'd never finished inside the top 40 at the PGA, finished 13th this past week. I can absolutely see him just being wiped. But he's really good. Abraham Answer. I'm scared of what he could be. I mean, it's high floor, high ceiling, low floor for Answer. I'll go Homa. I just think Homa's been the better player. He's been the more consistent player. And even I say high ceiling for Answer. Homa's obviously got a higher ceiling. He's a guy that's won 4 times on the PGA Tour as opposed to Answer's 1 career victory. So I'm going to lock that in. Tyler Duncan, Brian Harman, Max Homa, Chris Kirk, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose. This is definitely one of those weeks, Len, when you don't need to look like a football team coming out for warm-ups when you're trotting your lineup onto the field this week. You can go with a team that looks more like the soccer team instead of the football team.
Max Homa might be white, but I think I heard him on a podcast this morning. I was listening. He is so thrilled. What did he finish? 13th at the PGA. That is so far and away his best major performance. I think it just makes him feel like, okay. I mean, I won these other tournaments and that's a real thing, but to really be a good player, you got to be able to do it in the majors. So I think he's really feeling good about himself. It might carry him this week.
Yeah, I like that. All right. There's the lineup. Thanks to everybody out there for listening to this edition of the Links and Locks podcast. Remember, you can find us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Download, subscribe, listen to us every single week. And yes, rate us as well. For Len Hochberg, I'm Jason Sobel. Good luck with all of your DFS lineups for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial. Here's hoping you guys hit the green.